Hi guys. I think this is working. I think this is my first live. I tried to do a live the other day, but like I didn't know what I was doing. And now I'm realizing I still don't know what I'm doing. But hopefully this is working out okay. I'm just kind of checking on. Okay. Yeah, I think this is working. Oh wow, you can see my computer on the screen. Okay, interesting. Okay. Um Yeah, so let me actually bring you a little bit closer. I don't know if like it's easy to zoom in otherwise. All right. Okay. Yeah, now I can see things. I can see the chat. Hello. Yeah, okay. So, yep, and I can watch from Sea Monster YK and that chat came up. Nice. Okay. This is so weird and hard, but yeah, so I was feeling chatty today, and I think somewhere along the road I'll want to do lives and like not have to edit every single thing that I do. And I'll be doing a bunch of like little projects or little parts of projects. Yeah, for tea. This is just Tetley with oat milk. I My favorite plain black tea is Tetley, and I'm a big fan of like uh I think it's Twining's vanilla chai. That one I've been liking a lot lately. And but I really like tea. I could talk about tea in another live, but I'm not prepared for that. I actually made a list of like little talking points to talk about so I don't forget to talk because sometimes I just will want to go silent for a while. So we will be doing some bookbinding, but first I just want to finish up this little project, which is like literally just putting washi tape across the top of um these little forms. So these forms are one of the forms for our town, I guess, but like these didn't turn out right, so I was allowed to take them, and now I put them in my journals. So I think I did 8 or 6 of those. I'm not sure how many I did. But yeah, so this is literally all I'm doing. If you want it to be clean, you can get like a ruler or a card, even like an old gift card or something, and you can use the edge of it to rip the or to like cleanly tear the edge. But I think that looks totally fine just with an edge like that. This tape, which I got in a set, it's pretty good. It's pretty sticky, but that's the downside of your washi tape being sticky is sometimes it's really hard to remove from the roll there. So while I struggle with this, I'll talk about my first talking point. Because this is not really an actual talking point because I don't even know what I would have to say about Labor Day. But yesterday was Labor Day and we had a little Labor Day get together. That was fun. We had fried chicken strips and biscuits and hot dogs and corn chips and salsa and bean dip. That's it. And I think usually we do go a little bit overboard with the preparation that we do, but especially since Chris has been sick. Chris is my husband. Um, or like, he's not sick, but he's recovering. We're trying to take it easy a little bit more. So it was nice just to have a couple of people over and have a little bit of, um, you know, late summer picnicky kind of time. So one of my friends' oldest son is starting high school today, and it's always nice because last year we had them over and it was the day before school also, the day before the first day of school, and like the weather is just right, like it's just starting to get a little bit cooler again, and it really feels like fresh. And I don't know, I haven't been in school for like, oh, what, 12 years? Yes, I haven't been in school for 12 years. And I still feel like the beginning of September is more of the start of a new year than January. Maybe not more of a start of a new year, but it's like up there. It's pretty close. So, yeah, it was nice to kind of see him off. He has gym for his period, and we were all like, "Oh no, that's terrible." I know we're supposed to probably be more encouraging about like how it's gonna do fine and it's not gonna be so bad, but like all of us were like, "Oh no, that's terrible. I would hate to have gym for his period," but he'll learn. All right, so I'm all done with that little project, and it's nice to just get that out of the way because I was halfway through when I stopped yesterday. Then I can get the some of these washi tapes out of the way. And so another project, or so while I'm doing like these series of books, like the series of witchy books that I'm working on now, I always have other like books that don't belong in a series that I'm doing, some that I kind of do more for fun. Like, I don't know if other people would like it, but I do know that I would like to make it. And I think that keeps it like from feeling like too much, like, not like too much work, but like too much strain. And it's like easier to um, keep. Sorry, am I making a lot of noise? It's easier to keep from burnout if you also keep your hobbies as like something that you love, if you try to monetize your hobbies. um okay, so in those I or in doing that I have two more spacey journals that I did, and I made them a little bit easier than the larger space journal that I showed in one of my other videos. And I'm going to put a couple of pages in those books. So let me just show you one of them. So this here is one of those books. All I did, like I made a whole bunch of covers like sometime last year, and they were just sitting there, so I tried to find like a bunch of covers that weren't exactly 6 by 8, which is what I um, tend to make my book size. So this one's a little bit smaller than that, so I decided to take it out, and I found another one with like also like astrology and constellation-y kind of um, fabric, and they're all a little bit too small for that 6x8, so I just decided to put some easier paper to use, and then like I decorated the inside, of course, with some uh, cardstock that doesn't have an exact match. Then I made one of these, which I might make on a live. So it has a couple of pockets. It has some places to put some pictures. And then you can write here if you want to journal about the pictures. And then those pockets again. And then this has a couple of handmade paper pockets in there. And then this is a way that you can use like a really large piece of cardstock that wouldn't ordinarily fit in a book. Just make it its own signature, and like I'm not going to bind this part in. I'm just going to bind it here. And then it can just be its own signature. It can be in the center of a signature as well, but if it's its own signature, it's kind of easier to keep track of when you're binding it. So we're going to go ahead and do that today. But yeah, so a way to use up a big piece that might get cut off if you try to just put a page in. This is a nice way to get the whole picture. So then I use a lot of more blank sheets or sheets that I've already decorated. And so I don't have to do too much thinking. All I did was cut it down to the correct size. And then, is this upside down? Yes. See, it's always good to do a little flip through so you can do some quality control and make sure you're not binding in any signatures upside down. So yeah, so that's just really all just mostly plain paper. This is more of a notebooky journal than like a junk journal. But it's still obviously a junk journal because it's not just all the same kind of page. And then same thing, just a bunch of close to blank pages. You could write on every single one. There's not a lot of book pages, but I did have some book pages that I found that I decided that I might as well put it in. So sometimes I, like, if I have another page to put in, I might, like, feel how thick it feels, the signature, and then decide, like, this one feels the thinnest, so I'm going to put another page in there. So I'll put this universe page in. Okay, so this is too tall. So I'm trying to think where I want to cut it, because I don't think I want to cut that, like, galaxy off. But if I cut it here, I might be cutting off some of the words. So I am just going to cut where I can without cutting off any words, and then see if that's still too tall. Alright. Yeah, I think that'll work. Then let's see if it's too wide. Yeah, so it will be too wide if I keep it just like this. So I'm going to cut off the top. I'll get a little bit under that line because then I'm still not losing anything. And this is a page from a children's encyclopedia. So not much use for encyclopedias now that, or like paper encyclopedias, now that you can just look everything up online. So I don't feel so bad about cutting up a very old children's encyclopedia that might not even have the right information in it anymore. Alright, so there's half. Okay, it's still a little bit long, so I'm going to trim a little bit more off the bottom. I was trying to keep as much of that globe intact, but I'm just going to have to cut that off like this. And then that should be good. And fold it in half, and then find a good place for it. Alright, so there's a lot of graph paper up here, so I'm gonna put one right here to space out the graph paper just a little bit more. And then you saw before that this one I tore in half. So I'm just going to put this in a signature as well. I'm going to put it in a different signature. I'll put it in this one. And I'll just put it here. Okay. And then let me do the same thing with the other one so I don't forget what I need to do. So here's that other astrology constellation space cover that I have. So I'm going to put the telescopes in there. So let me cut this down. So I know that I won't be able to get all the way from this line to this line. So I'm going to choose a side, then I'm going to cut a little bit more off. And I will do this one. That wasn't straight. Now, of course, this side, like this side is going to be the edge of the paper. It doesn't really have to be straight. Or, like, none of the sides really have to be straight. Whoops. But sometimes it's nice to have the edge to be a little bit straighter. And now I'm just making it worse, so. Alright, there we go. So that should be good. That should be plenty of paper, or of size off the edge. And then on this side, a little bit under. Oh yeah, and that's why like the other side, television and video. The other one was like veterinary, or, yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was. Veterinarian, maybe? Something. Because I think it was universe, and then the opposite side would have started with V then, right? So that's why there's just other information, because you can't really choose what's on the back side of an encyclopedia page. It's just whatever is there. So sometimes I will find a really good page that I like, and then like a picture of a dictator is on the other side, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to put that in. But television and video, that's perfectly fine to put in. Also, if you have something that's unsavory for any reason, you can just cover it up with paint or another piece of paper or a scrap. But this, I'm just going to leave it because it matches up enough. And then this already has two sides that are good. Okay, so same thing, we're going to go through and find a signature. I'm just doing that quick look through to make sure that there's nothing upside down. And same one is upside down, so I must have put those in at the same time. Alright, so this one's feeling thin. So I'm going to put this one in here. Let's find a good place for it. Right here's good. And then I'll put one in this one. Okay, and then I have one more little thing to finish up on another journal before I start binding. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I made this journal with a bunch of bows. A while ago, I made... Oh my gosh, I have someone watching. Hi! Say hi if you're here. That was interesting. Okay, so I made this, like, illustration. I guess I illustrated the bows here, and then I had my husband put the words "take a bow," oh, play on "take a bow," and I just made a bunch of bows that kind of matched up with some different washi tape sellers that made like bow washi tape, which I have a lot of. So I did that, and this is a sticker sheet example called Date Bows from my newest edition, because like a bunch of journalers just really like bows, and I am included in that. So this is from Simply Gilded and has a bow there. So like as you can see, the bow motif was really good. So I wanted to utilize that because I love all those stickers and I love the washi tape. So I made a bunch of bows and I sewed it on the front of this. But I also have these bows that I found after I had made these signatures. So I thought, oh, I better put some of these bows in as well. So I'm just gonna flip through and find some blank-ish pages. Maybe a page without a bow on it, like this one, and throw a bow on there. So like you can see, these are from Simply Gilded. Most of my tape and stickers are from Simply Gilded, and I have some from Glam Planner as well. This is from Simply Gilded also. But I did try a couple of different ones throughout. I think this bow washi tape is actually from Target. And then there's some bow cardstock that I had. Alright, so here's like some blank pages. So I'm gonna put... Should I put it on this side or this side? I think I will do... I'm having some trouble with the sticker. Sometimes the cuts are not exact, so it's a little bit harder to get them off of stickers that have been kiss cut like that. But I got it. I always get it eventually. Alright, so there's a bow there. And then I will put a little one over here. I'll put it with these maybe. Actually, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to keep going and see if there's another space that feels like it needs a bow. Here. So I'll get a little one. Right there. Like I've said in a different video, I like to keep it off a little bit so that if I bind it, it doesn't get too far into the seam there. So those drawings that I made, I just printed them out in a bunch of different sizes. So I had a bunch of pages that I could put in here. I'll do a full flip through of this book at some point once it's finished. Alright, I'll put a bow here. I might put it right in the middle because I like the look of that as well. And you use up the same amount of space if you put it in the middle as if you put it in the corner. So like, well, if somebody chooses to write on this page, they can still write up here and write down here. Or maybe they can add like 2 little pictures instead of 1 big one. Something like that. Oh yeah, so here's like a really big blown up one of my drawing, and here's one that's a little bit smaller and just has a bunch of them. Alright, maybe here I'll put another bow. I'll put all the big ones in this book. Because I'm gonna use the little ones probably in the witchy journals, so I don't mind using all the big ones in a bow themed book. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. Like sometimes the kiss cut goes just a little bit too far down into the paper, so it's a little harder to get. But you can always get it if you persevere. If you persevere enough. Oh yeah, these, by the way, are holographic. So you can see that rainbow there. And then I just want to find one more space for one more big sticker. This is good. And I will put this one in the corner. Or I might put this on the seam, actually. Yeah. Alright, so now that's done. Those are all my little tasks that I wanted to get done before I started binding. I just want to show you the last one, so I have 4 altogether that I need to bind. Sorry. I keep bumping you. Alright, I hope the audio is good, by the way. I think there's some weird background noises that are happening. Let me just finish my tea because it's at that perfect temperature. You know when, like, you know that graph that's like about avocados and it's like not ripe, not ripe, not ripe, ripe, and then like over. That's how I feel like tea is sometimes. It's like too hot, too hot, too hot, too hot, perfect, and then too cold. Okay. So the last one I made is this butterfly, like dark butterfly journal. So like I have all these butterflies that I made out of some sample, I guess it's like upholstery or like some sort of like sample pages that my mom found. Um, yeah, so like the dump has this free section, like where you have things that are not like you're not putting directly into like the places where you do your recycling and stuff, but you can put things off to the side, or if somebody else wants to pick it up, they still can, and it doesn't get dirty or anything. So my mom found these. She brought a whole bunch of them home, and I was like, I want those. I want all of those. So I used a bunch of the um, samples to make these little butterflies, and then I sewed around the edges to keep them from fraying and also to make the butterfly look more butterfly-y. I wanted these butterflies to butterfly. So then uh, I actually put it on like a really plush, like you can feel there's like a bunch of batting in there. And then like everything was a little bit darker. I wanted everything to kind of have a darker feel. And then I just made all these signatures. So let's see how many signatures I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Yeah, so this one's like some of the ones that I make that are kind of more just for fun, like just for me to do instead of doing it for any particular series or anything like that. They tend to be a little bit bigger because I like to stuff them really full. Alright. So, the way I start binding is first by taking measurements. And you don't have to take like actual measurements with numbers. You can just take a physical measurement with a piece of paper, which tends to be the best way. So what I do is I kind of fold, I line up my paper there, and then I fold it to make sure it stays in, because if I line it up perfectly like that, and then that's how far it pushes in. So like you don't want your signature to be like really pushed up against here. Even though we have a lot of signatures, we don't want it to get up against the back page so much, because then it will be too hard to close. And then same thing on this side. I just fold that in, and then that should be just about the right size. And then I just, when I fold, I just make sure everything's straight. And then I do the same thing for height. I don't do it all the way to the edge. I do it a little bit off of the edge, because you also don't want to be binding so close to the edge there. So let me cut this out, and it'll be my template. And I don't have anything fancy for binding books. I don't have like the thing where you can put the signature in and then just do all the holes. So I do this measurement every single time, but I might invest in one of those signature holders where it like is shaped like a V, and then you put it in, and then it already has a bunch of different holes that you can choose from. Alright, so I said I have 6. So I'm going to fold this in half. And that's going to help me see where to put the 6. I'm going to do I think with this one I'll do a 3, because it's so, there's so much paper. I think that even with just a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, it will stay in pretty well. Alright, so I made my cross, folded it both ways in half, and I found the exact center of this page. So that's going to be the exact center of the spine. Where's my pen? And then I will space out 3 on each side of the middle fairly evenly. Now I do this with scrap paper, but if you use graph paper, then I'm actually going to move this more in towards the center. If you use graph paper, of course, it's going to be a lot easier because you'll have the graph for it. Like the grid will help you to see where you can put the other dots more easily. But I'm just going to eyeball it, which is kind of terrible. I'm wanting to do a 5 now, but I think I'll just do a 3. So we will go up here. And then just line it up on the other side. Now it doesn't have to be even. Let me draw these dots and then I'll explain what I'm trying to say so it's not confusing. So these dots, like 1, 2, 3, you want those to all be in a line. Those should be all in one straight line, every single row, like that. Now these dots going up and down, these don't have to be in a straight line, because if you want to make like a little design, you can maybe move this one up and this one out, and then you'll have a different design there. And then also this, like these holes to the edge and these holes to the edge, they don't have to be even with each other. Like this one can be all the way up at the top and this one can be down. And you'll see when I make some that have like a little bit of hardware on the top, I'll have to move the top dots down. So we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, and then I start poking with my awl. So I put this in the spine and then I close the spine like that. And then it'll be pretty much centered into the right place. Sometimes I have a little bit of a hard time keeping it parallel. Now this one's going to be a little bit difficult because of all of that batting that's in there. So what I'm doing is I'm poking it through and then I'm just taking it off the edge of the table and then poking it all the way through. Now what the awl does is it, instead of like breaking the fabric threads, it just kind of works its way in between 2 threads and then pushes it off to the side. And then as the awl goes deeper and deeper through it, it pushes those threads more and more. So sometimes after you poke a hole like that, that hole will close back up because of the threads will go back into place. So just keep that in mind. We'll see if it happens to me. Now, because of all the batting, sometimes it's hard to go back the opposite way. into the same hole, but if you keep pushing around, you'll find it eventually. So you see it's coming out on the other side now, and then I do the full hole. So that's how you do one hole, like that. But I usually do all of them, like I line it up this way, and I do all of them at a little bit, and then I come from the other side to do the rest. So now I have a place in the cardboard. Now paper doesn't have, or it isn't made, it's not like woven like fabric is. So it does get destroyed as you push through it. And like the cardboard is not gonna like reform. So you definitely, when you push through, you have a hole to go through. So you might just have to maneuver through the fabric a little bit. Okay. The same thing, I'm just going to keep on going through and doing this. And let's see. Alright, so let's see. I talked about the start of the new school year and how that feels like it's starting fresh. And like, yeah, I think like the air, like how it's not so hot anymore, I think that feels really fresh too. Alright, this one's actually a little bit hard to show because there's so many layers, because I have the lace, I have that piece of fabric, I have like the inner fabric that covers it, I have the batting, I have the outer covering that of fabric that covers it, and it's hard to show all that. So I might not do this one first. I mean, I know obviously I'm showing it now, but I think I'm going to switch back to one of the space journals. Or the bow one, because there's not as many layers to those, and they're like pretty flat. Alright, yeah, I think I'll do the bow one. And then this one still has six signatures, so it can still be the same. And then sometimes I just check to see if this fits, and it does seem to fit pretty well. Alright, so I'm going to take my awl, I'm going to do that all again, all day, all night. I don't know if, like, sometimes my husband and I, we make, like, some punny shirts, and we just put, like, he draws it, and we just put them up on it, on Redbubble, and I was like, all day long is gonna be a good one, because, like, bookbinders, they all day long. I don't think he really liked that pun as much. But like, take a bow. That's like one of the shirts that we made. That's a kind of a pun, I guess. Alright, so I'm pushing like maybe a centimeter in, and then on this side, because it's probably hard to see on camera, but because there's not so many layers and it's woven, it's a lot easier to see where I'm poking through there. Alright, if I ever get off, I just realign them. Because if I want to keep using this as my template for the actual signatures, then I can't move it. But I might move this a little bit because the other book was a little bit taller. So I'm going to move this down some. And then I'll just make a new template for the signatures, which is totally fine because I still want to use this for the butterfly one. I'm going to actually turn this around. So if I can use this template for the butterfly one, I don't want it to have too many holes already poked into it. Well, let me finish this and I'll show you what I mean. So like, you see how that hole there is really big and blown out? Like, I can still continue to use it, but if I kept on doing that and like pushed all the way through with all of the holes, then this won't be usable anymore. So, uh, I'll just keep that aside and keep that for the butterfly one. So now I'm just going to flip it over and then I'll use the awl from this side. And the reason I like to do it from the outside in is it kind of pushes the fibers this way and it pushes the cardboard in towards the inside. And like you can still see this part of the book, but not nearly as much as the binding. And then, or the outside spine, I mean. And you'll be able to see all the binding from it. So the outside spine, if you put it on a shelf or you just put it down, it's almost always going to be visible. So I like to make that a little bit cleaner if possible. I used to really like, not that I didn't understand why people like fall, obviously, fall's awesome, but like, I didn't understand why people hated summer. And, like, this summer was like one of the worst summers of my life, and I'm starting to understand why some people just want to get to the fresh start a little bit faster. But yeah, I love summer because I don't mind the hot weather really. And like I don't mind just having a fan most of the time. Oops. I got a little shifted out of place, but I think that will still work. Yeah, I'm definitely more of a fan, like just use a fan person than air conditioning, but air conditioning is nice too. Like there's definitely some days where I'm like thinking about going elsewhere just so I could use air conditioning. Like the library, the movies, bookstores, lots of places where you can sit for a while. Okay, so that's one row done. And I'm going to show this, let me try to show this a little bit better, what I'm doing. So it might be hard to see now, like I said, on camera, but I can see little tiny holes that I made before. I think this one might be the easiest one to see, so I'm going to poke through that. And then on the opposite side, you'll see that it comes through where the hole started. And then I just push all the way through like that. Now, do I ever hurt myself with an awl? Yes. So, even, like, I still consider myself pretty much a beginner with this. I've not been doing it that long. So, I do sometimes, like, push it through a little bit and my thumb's there. And so, or my finger's there. And so then I just have a little tiny little cut. And usually I don't use enough pressure that I can really impale myself. But yeah, I've definitely gotten injury from bookbinding. Oops. Okay. So you kind of nestle the awl into the hole. You can push the fabric around until it just kind of falls into the original hole through the cardboard that you made. And then just go all the way through. Yeah, so as you can see, you can't go crazy close together with the holes that you make, depending on um, how much you want to push your awl through. You saw I pushed the awl all the way through on all of these holes, so it's at the biggest setting. And that's just what's easiest for my cord and my needle that I am using. Um, So probably 6 signatures would be the max for this, because if I put much more, then the holes would be too close together. So that's something that you want to think about when you're making your signatures too. Alright, I'm just going to repunch these middle ones, because I can no longer see where the fibers were separated. Alright, so the next thing I have on my list of things to talk about. Oh, I think I was talking about summer. Like, I used to, like, go to the pool when I lived in an apartment, and I loved that. And you can only do that in the summer, as north up as I live. So, like, I did love that. I'm not a swimmer. I don't really actually know how to swim, but I liked floating around. Like, and just like being able to be in the water after a long day. It's just nice. Sorry, I had to do that one off camera because it kind of got offset a little bit. Sorry, I keep shaking you. There's just a lot of moving parts here. Alright, so for this last one, I'm going to poke all the way through so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So you see how, like, the inside of these look a little bit, like, junkier because they got pushed all the way through and they kind of look blown out. Like, you can see how they kind of push through more. So that doesn't happen as much with fabric, but you can see that there's a little bit pushing through there. So just to fix that with this, I'm just going to push it back in. But yeah, if you cover the outside with cardstock or paper or anything like that, I definitely recommend pushing from the outside in. Alright. So the next step, so I'm going to make another template. And it doesn't have to be as wide as this. It just has to be the right height. Yeah, sometimes I just rip things, like I don't even realize that I'm doing it before I start doing it. Because it just for many years I would like rip like loose leaf paper into a square to make it something out of something for origami. Some fold that page into origami. And so like I just do it naturally sometimes after I make a fold like this. Like and I crease it enough, I'm like, oh, now it's time to rip it instead of using my scissors, which are literally right here. I just use them. Okay, so now this, even though it's so skinny, it can still sit into the signature and make the holes for that. So I'm just going to mark them. You can use the awl, or you can mark them with a pen and then go in and mark it with, or use your awl with it. Okay. And then that way it'll be easier to know where you need to mark each time. Yeah, but I think the best part about summer, sorry, I keep on jumping back. The best thing about summer is how long the daylight is. And like how you can be outside for so long. Even if all you're doing is like being like 1 centimeter outside of your door just to like eat dinner or have a nighttime tea or something, then it's still nice. It's nice. Like, it's so much nicer to do that at like 9 o'clock in August than it is to do that at 9 o'clock in October. Well, maybe October's not so bad, but like the sun's down. The sun's like way down, and the weather is might be too cold, and yeah. So I always just liked summer more, but I think because I didn't get to do everything that I wanted to do this summer, because things got plans changed a little bit. I didn't get to go roller skating as much as I thought I would. Like, I only went once. And I thought I would go kind of a lot. And I didn't get to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. Start learning how to drive again. There's just a bunch of things that kind of got set back since my husband got sick. So, I'm kind of looking forward to this fresh start myself, even though I'm not in school. All right, so I'm just gonna do this one first, and I'm gonna keep talking, and then I will go through it more step by step on the next signature that I do. Okay, so the next thing I have on my list to talk about is Neopets. So Neopets is something that I did play when I was in high school, and maybe middle school too. I don't even really remember when Neopets started at all, like in the world, and I don't know when it started for me. But I do remember that I had a Ixie. I had a red Ixie called Lil Kneebiter, and that was like basically what I did. Like after I did my homework, I would just like play Neopets for the rest of the day, and sometimes even before I did my homework. It was in the time of like um, AOL Instant Messenger also, so I probably was playing Neopets and also chatting with friends on AIM. And then eventually, um, like to I wasn't using it as much. Let me put it that way. So I wasn't using mine as much, but my friend was still using his, and I was like, well, you can just like spin the wheel and sell things to each other, and um, like you can play all the games on my account, and then just sell something to me, or sell something to yourself, or yes, like his account would sell something to my account, and I would buy it with the Neopets that he made, and that's like very against the rules, and but like he did it anyway. Like I don't think I was like really telling him like all of these things that he could do, but I was like, yeah, like I don't mind giving you the Neo points, but so it was very against the rules, and then that account got banned because I mean he wasn't supposed to be doing that, and he was using my account to do it, so uh, both of our accounts got banned, which is like silly now, but I was like kind of sad back then. And I guess I wasn't using it as much then at that point, so it wasn't so bad. But I had to start completely fresh, and I don't remember what my second Ixie was called, but it was a green one. So I started Neopets again. Uh, like a few weeks ago now, and it's been really fun. I remember a lot of the games. Like Sutek's Tomb is like basically like Bejeweled, and so I really remember that. And like all the music is the same, and it's really weird. Like the one game that I remembered the most was Snow Muncher. I was like, I just feel like playing Snow Muncher today, and like there was a long time that Neopets the site was completely down. Um, I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, all what actually happened with that and, like, the rumors and everything. But, like, I think something happened and then they had to shut down. Uh, but, yeah, I've been back on that. So, like, along, like, sometimes you just don't want to think about what to play. Like, and video games can be, like, really complicated sometimes and you don't want to put that much thought into it. So like these little puzzle games that you could play on Neopets that like only would last a couple of minutes. Like that was like sometimes I crave that kind of gameplay. So every once in a while I would remember Snow Muncher and I'd be like, oh, I wish I could just play that game. And like, you know, when you have like an app that has a lot of ads, um, with, so like I play a lot of Sporkle, which kind of also like fulfills that little want to have like little short games sometimes. So I play Sporkle a lot, and I just switched over from using just like the website on my phone to having the actual app. So I have a ton of ads. And then I started seeing some ads, like playable ads, which I never really interacted with before. So, like, there's this playable ad, Township, and like I would play it while I waited for the timer to go down so I could go back to Sporkle. And so I was like, this game reminds me a lot of Neopets. And I know if I go to like click the download that they have, um, I know it's not going to be the actual game because it never is. It's always like a little fake out. Like it gets you to be like, oh, this little playable ad is really fun. I would love to play this. But then it brings you to a completely different game. So I didn't want that. So, but then it really reminded me of Neopets. And I was like, oh, maybe I can start Neopets again. And so I was talking to my husband about it, and he was like, yeah, Neopets is back up. So I got another Neopet. It's an Ixie, which is like a deer, and it was green. It's called its name is Minxie Trixie, the Ixie, and so it was green, but I got a starry paintbrush yesterday, and I painted it starry, so it now has stars on it, which is really cool. My Neopet has a pet called Trinxie the Harris, and that Harris is named after Harris from Freaks and Geeks. But I was like, oh, if Kamala wins, I'm gonna rename my Harris Kamala. But I might get another one because I just like Trinsky too much. Um, anyway, so what I did here is I poked the holes through the signature. So the 3 holes will line up with the next 3 holes. So I take the needle and I go through the center hole, and I go to the corresponding center hole on the spine. I go all the way through. Then you find any of the next hole, like either the top or the bottom. It'll be symmetrical, so it doesn't matter. Go through that one to the inside, and then go through the signature as well. Now this part might be a little bit more difficult to line up, so just take your time. So like mine just got caught there. I don't want to be poking too many holes into my papers, so I just take a very light hand so I don't go making any more holes. But then I get all the way through to the middle. Of the signature here, and then I go to the top. I go all the way through there, and then I go through the corresponding hole in the spine and go all the way out to the outside. Now this next part's the hard part. It is going back through this center hole. So it already has a thread going through there from the beginning. And I want to make sure not to put my needle through this thread because that will cause this thread to split. Now, it's not the end of the world if that happens. There's ways to get past it if it does. But I'm going to go through here, go through the spine. I can feel with my needle that I've gone through the spine part, but not all the way through the signature. So sometimes you just have to take a look and see where you're at. Okay, so this is a great example, if you can see this at all. Let me see if I can show this up close. So you can see there that I've gone through the spine, but not the signature. And then you can see how there's a tiny bit of fiber on this side of the needle. We don't want that. That's going to split it's going to split the thread. Or it's going to make it so you can't easily pull the thread through. So I'm just going to pull the thread through the spine here to make sure that it's not splitting the thread. And then you can go through the signature this way. So here you can see I went all the way through to the other side. And I'm just going to make it so that I have one string on this side of the middle string and one side on this side. Does that make sense? I said side too many times. So let me just quickly thread this so that my needle is connected somewhere. Yeah, that's something that I like to do, just to have my needle so I don't lose my needle all the time. Which the very first time I bound a book, I lost my needle like 3 times because it was stressful for me. So I just like to connect it. Sometimes I can just push it into like another hole or some thread, like a ball of thread, and I'll just do it that way. But if I already have the thread already cut up to the right size, then I just thread my needle. So then I make sure that I have one end of the string on one side and one end on the other side of this middle string. I pull it tight. And then I tie a bow. You don't have to tie a bow. You can tie a knot. You can trim it really close so that you don't have too much extra. But I like the look of the ribbons. I don't mind it one bit. Or the look of the threads. Alright, so I'm just going to keep doing that. One more thing that I forgot to mention is I already had a bunch of strings cut up because I'm making a lot of similarly shaped books. So I already have it, so I already know how long it has to be. It has to be a little bit more than 2 times because it goes up and around and then back up. So it basically goes 2 times there, and then you want enough space to make the bow at the end. So I just do 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and then that's where I cut it off of my ball of twine. Okay, so let me get my needle so I can keep track of it, and then I'll do the next signature. So sometimes when I'm doing a big series, I just poke all the holes at once because it's really easy for me to lose like the little template or not keep track of everything. But if I'm just doing one at a time or like one book, then I'll just do one signature at a time. That way, if the, like this sheet, as you can see, it doesn't go all the way up to the top or all the way to the bottom. So you have to keep the whole line up so it doesn't get misaligned with the, when you're trying to bind it in. Which has happened to me before, and then all the pages are kind of offset a little bit, and that's just a little bit hard to deal with. Alright, so back to Neopets, as I was saying. It's been fun. I've been, like, trying to get back into it so that I'm not spending too much time on it each day, but also making sure that I use it to relax also. So, like, I don't want to keep my time to too low either, or else it won't be relaxing for me. And yeah, it's been fun though. YouTube has also been taking up some of my time, but it's not been that stressful. Like, I've been uploading pretty frequently since I came back on about a week ago. And editing doesn't take that long. I'm not, like, losing my mind over taking out all the ums and everything, which I used to. I definitely used to. Think about taking out every single and every single pause. And I try to make it so it's not forever. So, like, my videos don't last forever. But I don't worry too much about, like, oh, is this going to be boring for people? Like, I just do whatever I feel like now. So YouTube has been a lot easier and has not been taking up nearly as much time as it used to. And I used to always be thinking about, like, what am I going to do for my next video? But now I'm literally just doing what I would normally do. Like, this is what I would be doing today. So I'm just filming it now. I'm like, well, especially this one, because this is just a live. I'm literally just filming it, and I'm not going to edit it at all. But this is getting pretty long, actually, so I think, even though I'm not finished binding this, I'm going to call this live done, and see what it's like to save it, maybe? Like, so people can see it later on the on-demand. Let me know what you think of the live, and let me know if I should do more. So thanks for watching. Bye!